Well, today I'm going to answer a question that perhaps none of you are asking, but a few people have. A few people have asked because many people operate with a very simple MO, a modus operandi, which, if you've ever watched any crime video, movie, sitcom, TV show ever, an MO, the modus operandi, is kind of the signature, if you will, of the way people do things. It's a blend of the methodology and the motivation, kind of all rolled into one. It's what leaves the indicator after the event has occurred, that you can look back at it and go, yeah, that's exactly like this one, or very similar to this one because of. Behavioral sciences and criminology have been blended together because of the MO, the modus operandi, the reason people operate the way they do, the mode of their operation and the motivation of their operation. And most people that I know have a very basic MO. WIIFM. What's in it for me? And because that drives most people to make the decisions that they make, the places that they go, the things that they do, the items that they buy, the vehicle they drive, the person they marry or date, the type of career that they long for, that MO of what's in it for me seems to be pretty consistent in the driving and determining factors and their outcome. So if someone says, what's in it for me, when they're looking for a job, and if you're a hiring manager, you probably experienced this, on the rise in the last, I don't know, probably 8 to 10 years, has been the demand on arrival of, I want benefits, I want vacation time, I want all these things to be applied to me from day one. I want a 401k, I want retirement package, I want health care, I want it all day one, I want it without any exclusions. Most of us growing up were lucky to start a job that had a regular paycheck. Most. Some came straight out of college and jumped right into their dream job, but I don't know a whole lot of those unless they started their own business. So the WIIFM, the what's in it for me, drives the way we approach our career. How much money will I earn? How many days will I get off? How many benefits do I have? How much will you contribute to my retirement? How many vacation days will I have? How many sick days will I have? What do I have to do to qualify for the next promotion? How do I get the next pay raise? When do I get the next pay raise? How much will the next pay raise be? Well, how come that other person got a pay raise and I haven't gotten one yet? And so that WIIFM, that what's in it for me type of mentality, drives all those questions. Unfortunately, many people take that same series of questions, the WIIFM questions, into a relationship. Well, if we're going to get married, then are we going to have your name or my name? Are we going to live in your house or my house? Are we going to have your friends or my friends? Are we going to share everything, or is everything going to be mine and then you'll have your own stuff? And it's sad to think, but there are a lot of relationships that are driven that way. The prenuptial agreement is a good indicator of how relationships have begun already divided. What's mine is mine and it'll stay mine. What's yours is yours and it'll stay yours. And what's ours, we'll argue about that later. Unfortunately, the presupposition is that there will be a later at which point we'll argue about this, not that whatever comes, we'll find a way to fight through it. I know there are legal reasons for a prenuptial agreement. I also believe that they are harbored in the notion that there's a better chance that we'll fail at this relationship than we'll succeed. WIIFM, what's in it for me? What do I get if? How do I win this occasion? How do I win this argument? How do I win this negotiation? And unfortunately, I think there are a lot of negative things that come from being driven by that. Number one, the epitome of WIIFM is selfishness. When a person is just downright selfish, it's that their only motivation is, well, what's in it for me? What do I get out of this? What do I get out of this drive? Do I get more money out of this? Do I get more attention out of this? Do I get more fame out of this? Do I get more popularity out of this? Will people know who I am because of this? I think that driving selfishness is part of the challenge that we have when we talk about ambiguous, highly ambiguous terms like social justice. Selfishness is really the root of the term social justice, because It's the catch-all phrase that says, I feel like a victim, I didn't get what I wanted out of it, what's in it for me, and therefore I'm going to accuse you of social injustice, or I'm going to say that there is no social justice, or there's no equality, or it's not fair, because then at least I'm not the only victim. I'm creating an entire class of victims, like a class action lawsuit, where I can bring accusation against you. Even if I can't really put my finger on what it is that I wanted that I didn't get, as long as there's someone to blame, then there's no social justice. WIIFM is really what's in it for me is really the driving factor behind that. Take the money from those who don't have and give it to those, or take the money from those who do have and give it to those who don't have, and let the government decide who gets what. WIIFM. What's in it for me? If they have a lot of money and I have no money, then someone should arbitrarily take it from them and give it to me. WIIFM. It's a driving factor in a lot of things. But the question I put on the screen, like I said, is a question that no one is asking, but I think it bears an answer. So what's in it for me to go to the Congo? Well, I'm not always driven by WIIFM. Sometimes I'm driven by a passion to help, to do for others what they can't do for themselves, to give advice, to point in a direction, to offer insights. Our team went to the Congo last year, and we taught what I honestly would have thought was pretty basic government and pretty basic leadership stuff. The type of stuff you would expect to learn maybe in an AP high school class. If you were part of the Boy Scouts or you were part of your student government leadership, you might learn and practice some of the same kind of stuff that we taught. But we taught it in a way that young people who are already involved in government, young people who have already made that move, and when I say young people, I don't mean middle teenagers, I mean high school grads and early college, in that age range. And then some who have been, that are older than that, but they're new to politics. But everybody that we provided training for is already actively involved. They have been appointed or they have been elected to government office in some capacity. And so when we took this training to them and offered to them training in leadership, training in democracy, training in parliamentary order, training in ethics, in business and ethics and leadership, the result was that they were really proud of it. And I'm excited to come back with it. I haven't seen it yet, but I hope to come back with a few copies of it. The material that we provided was published. And so what we wrote, what we taught, what we made available to them has been made into a book that the Vice Prime Minister said, I want that book used by everyone in government, not just the people who come to your seminars. I want everyone in government to have access to that book. So they have printed and purchased several copies of it, translated to French because that's the primary language in the Congo. And it is now available, or will be on Monday, it will be available to anyone who serves in Parliament, legislature, Congress, governors, mayors, anybody in government capacity throughout the Congo. Additionally, though, I've been asked on this trip to also spend some time at the University of Kinshasa teaching on leadership in the classroom. And the irony to that is I don't have all the fancy degrees to say I'm qualified to do that, but the dean of students was one of those senators who is also in the leadership class. I believe dean of students is his right title. Dr. Mitchell is watching. He was with me. He knows who I'm talking about. He'll be teaching there as well. So feel free to correct me if I've got Senator O's title wrong at the University of Kinshasa. The point is that it is a privilege and an honor to have an opportunity to impart what little wisdom I have to the next generation. It's an extreme honor to do that in another nation. I saw some video recently of a newsreel where several of the young people, and any of you who've watched this program for the last year, heard me talk about, this is just a small aside to lay a foundation for you, heard me talk about the filth in Kinshasa. The fact that even the government leaders that we were teaching, when they would open their knife and fork and take the napkin and take the little wrapper off of it or whatever, it just went on the ground right next to them. They didn't put it in trash receptacles. They didn't even look for one. They just threw it on the ground next to their table. And that's a nature of the conditioning or the training that they've received. They just don't provide trash cans in public in Kinshasa. So it doesn't matter what it is that you're eating, using, finished with. When you're done with it, it just goes on the ground right where you're at. And so one of the conversations that I had in the nightclub that Thursday night was with several people, and it was about, why do you not take better care of your city? Why does your city look like this? And immediately their knee-jerk reaction was, well, they don't provide us trash cans. I said, well, whose fault is that? They're like, what do you mean? I said, nothing's going to change until you take responsibility for it to change. Well, the news story that I saw just recently, and I don't know if there's any direct relationship or if it's just the culture changing and the tide is beginning to turn. But there's a group of 20-somethings who have now taken to the streets and pushed back and said, why is our city so filthy? Why does it have to be like this? Why can't we change it? Why won't the government provide us trash cans, help us clean it up, hire people whose job it is to be in the sanitation department and get this filth off the streets? Why do we have to live like this in 2017? A dozen or two of them were arrested. And they negotiated, and most of them, I believe all of them, were released. The only thing that was asked was that they would take off their branded shirts that declared they were, rebelling against this particular thing. And hopefully that compatibility, that ability to say there needs to be change, but we're going to be amicable about it, is bringing about change. Well, that's why we went. That's why we're going again. We're hoping to instill individual liberty alongside individual responsibility. Yes, you have the freedom to do many things. You also bring with that freedom great responsibility. So why do I go to the Congo? It's not for the money, I promise you. I lose money on my days off because I don't get paid to go. I lose money from the cost of the time away from work, the time away from my family, the expenses for things like visa and immunizations. Those are out of pocket. And so it's not like I make a lot of money going. It's a loss. It really is a loss. Similar to a mission trip, but not quite as expensive as a mission trip. I don't get any brownie points on my resume. I don't get any brownie points from my boss. I don't get any brownie points from anybody else. But when I get those Facebook messages from those young people that I've impacted, that I've had a chance to build a relationship with, that I have ongoing conversation with, that send me a message in the middle of the evening and they're like, I was thinking about this, what are your thoughts? That's a payoff. That's what's in it for me. Knowing that I've had a chance to invest from the mistakes that I've made and the stupid decisions that I've made, the things that I've done wrong, to turn those things around and provide advice and insight and leadership training to someone who has a chance to change the world in the future. That's my payoff. That's what's in it for me. If you have a chance to go on a mission trip, whether it's a business for missions trip, Global Advance, I highly recommend them. David and Jonathan Shibley run Global Advance. It's a great organization. They do marketplace ministry in a lot of different places. They do downright missions ministry in a lot of different places as well, where they're out there feeding the hungry and putting shoes on those who have no shoes and washing the feet of those who haven't had shoes most of their life. And believe it or not, a pair of shoes in certain places in the world is a life-saving decision. To wear shoes or not wear shoes is a life-saving decision. There's so many bacteria in landfills and things that these kids walk through barefooted that they desperately need it. If you have the chance, the time, and the money to invest to go on a trip like that, I highly recommend Global Advance. They're a great team to do that with. Those of us who are traveling with USALGA, it's specifically for government, it's specifically for leadership, and it's specifically for the African continent. But if that's in your wheelhouse, feel free to send me a private message and I'll pass it on to those who make the decisions, because I'm not one of them. But I'd love to share your information. We're hoping to continue to expand the efforts in Africa, and we're hoping to continue to expand influence in Africa and to see God do some incredible things. We go as a government entity, so we don't go to preach. We don't go to do missions and set up missions organizations. That's not what we're there for. We're there to train those who are already serving in government. But we still need your prayers. We need your financial support. We need your prayer for protection. because there's still a lot of rebels carrying guns and shooting people. There is an American United Nations worker that was killed less than a month ago. It happens. So prayer for protection, prayer for peace, prayer for provision. I would still appreciate all those things. And the next time you have a chance to serve in a capacity that looks like not going to benefit my job, not going to improve my resume, not going to build me any friends, why would I do it? What's in it for me? Ask about the potential that you have to impact the world for the future. You may find that what's in it for you is a greater honor than anything you could have ever asked for. I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.